everyone, this is Selena Kraus and welcome to another card video. In this video today, I'm featuring the new release from Scrappy Tales Crafts. I'm featuring two of the new sets, Oopsy Daisy, which you can see here on the top. I'm just trying to pull up a piece of white cardstock so you can see it a little bit better. So this is the Oopsy Daisy 6x6 and we have Mama Birds, which is 4x6. Both stem sets come with coordinating dies that you can purchase separately. And I will use both of the stamp set on my card. So let's get started. I'm using a piece of cold pressed watercolor paper and I will stamp with black pigment ink. But before that, what I did here, I have piece of A2 piece of white cardstock and a die cut a circle that I will create a window and then arrange my elements there. So I decided to use the daisy in the middle. I think that was the smallest one and kind of went nicely in that circle. So I'm stamping off the page because I won't use the bottom of the stamp. I'll just use the flower and it will be behind that window. That's why I position it like that. And now I pulled out two of the birds that I decided to use on my card. I'm using my Misty tool here and I will stamp with black pigment ink. Before I stamped, I primed my cardstock or my watercolor paper using the anti-static powder tool because once we stamp this, we're going to emboss with clear ultra fine embossing powder. I really like the raised effect that the embossing powder gives to the images. So stamp a couple times to have nice and intense black coverage. Next, I'm going with my clear embossing powder, pouring over the images, flicking off the excess, and now I will just heat set that. I first warmed up the cardstock on the back. Or the watercolor paper. It makes it easier for the embossing powder to melt once I go from the front. So I think we're done here. Next, what I'm doing is I'm coloring the images using Karin watercolor markers, and I'm applying directly onto the watercolor paper, and then moving the color with my wet paintbrush. I'm going back again to add a little bit more color to make more contrast and to have more saturated color. Next, we're gonna color the petals. I'm using very pale yellow and the lightest warm gray. Once I go over with the yellow, I'll go with the gray while the petals are still wet. I apologize for my dog is barking in the back. Well, in the background, not in the back. So now while those petals are still wet, I'm adding some of that gray marker and blending it in with my wet paintbrush. So I'm just repeating the same process for every petal. And spreading it from the center of the flower towards the ends of the petals. I decided to add a little bit more of the yellow on a few of the petals. The first one that I did. Next, we're gonna color the stem. We're not gonna be able to see it, but if somebody peeks through that window, I just wanted to make sure that it's colored. Next, we're moving to the birds, and this one is a hummingbird, so I'm using greens and reds to color the bird, and also orange. Again, I'm applying the color where I want it to be darkest, and from there spreading it to the lighter parts. I'll go just in a little bit to add a little bit more dark green for more contrast. And if you go outside the lines, and you can see me here, I did this couple times. You can just use a clean wet paintbrush, just rub that off and then pick up the color using the paper towel. So this bird is almost done. Just I'm adding a little bit more color, and here I'm adding that darker green and blending it in with my paintbrush. So let's add orange. So I think that's good. Let's move to the next bird. For this one, I decided to use aqua and hot pink. And I am repeating the same process for this bird too when it comes to the coloring. So I added first the pink, and now I'm adding the aqua, and where I want it to be darkest, and then blending it in and spreading that color using my paintbrush. I'm adding a little bit more color for a little bit more contrast. Just going to add a little orange. And now let's move to die cut those. So I have already prepared the coordinating dies, and I'm using some highlighting tape to secure those. And by magic of YouTube, I have already die cut those. I set them aside, and next, since our panel with the window opening was 4¼ by 5½, I'm trimming it down to 4 by 5¼ making sure that circle is centered onto the panel, and I cut down a slightly smaller panel from white cardstock to go in the back, and I'm blending some blue, very pale blue or aqua ink on the top. So when we put that circle, we just see that only the top part has the blue ink blended area. Now I'm positioning my elements, my birds and flower, to see where I want them to go and picking out the sentiment. I'm using sentiment from Mama Bird's stamp set. So I will use my Misty tool, or you can use any stamping positioning tool you have, even acrylic block. But I wanted to make sure that my sentiment is stamped straight and also that I have nice coverage. So once it's stamped, we can go ahead and assemble our card. I'm using some foam adhesive to add on the back of that window frame or window panel. And making sure we have nice coverage so the card is sturdy and survives going through the mail. I'll remove the backing. And before I adhere it down onto the ink blended panel, I will adhere the daisy. So now it's kind of, it was lifting up a little bit because there was no adhesive on the front. So I added some liquid adhesive in the back to hold that nice and sturdy. Next, I'm using some the same foam adhesive to adhere the birds onto my panel. So now we have everything done, and we just need to adhere that panel onto our note card. So I'm creating a note card from 4¼ by 11 piece of light blue cardstock, and I scored it at 5½ and folded it to create that top folding note card. And I just adhered the entire panel on it. To finish it off, I decided to add a couple of white halfback pearls just for a little bit more interest and sparkle. So here's a closer look of the card we just finished. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and give a thumbs up if you like this video. Also, please visit my blog for more ideas and inspiration. Thanks for watching. Bye!